there's sometimes maybe a transfer is a positive. Too many kids these days think it's an easy route. I'm not playing immediately, and so they say we got to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
I think the Purdue's and stuff, those guys have a lot of guys that are back.
Yeah.
And the reason those teams have had success lately is because they've kept their guys in their program. So I think there's some fool's gold out there with that.
People always say players have changed. Players not necessarily have changed. Coaches have changed.
Yeah.
No matter what is out there, if you don't compromise on who you are, what you stand for, what you're trying to teach, I think culture takes care of itself.
Well, welcome to another episode of Beyond U. Excited for the conversation today. We have our guest, Coach Kirk Kelley, who is our athletic director, as well as head baseball coach, and Coach Donnie Bostwick, who is our head coach for our men's basketball program. We're going to jump into talking about the transfer portal and NIL and college athletics, both on a national level for the NCAA, but also even for our level, we'll talk about some of the ramifications. So I guess just a place to start for our audience is just a definition of terms. So when we throw out words like or phrases like the transfer portal and NIL, can you kind of explain to us what those mean, just so we're all on the same page?
Sure. The transfer portal is actually an NCAA term. NAIA, we don't have a transfer portal. It's kind of a misnomer. Kids think we do, but it was created to give kids chances to go and become eligible immediately. Back in the old days, if you transferred, you had to sit out a year. There was no ifs, ands, ors about it. And so it's kind of created a very unique atmosphere right now in college athletics. And the NIL is a whole nother creature in the fact that, kids are able to make money. And so kids are looking at schools, academics, athletics, money, a lot of things in the equation.
Yeah, and I would guess one of those is probably keep creeping towards the top as far as most important.
Yes.
We have Caitlin Clark this week with her NIL deal capping out, or not capping out. It's probably going to hit way further than this. But what was it, like 5.5 million
Something
as
like
of this
that,
week?
yeah.
Insane, absolutely insane.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about the background. So obviously for a long time with student athletes, they weren't able to be paid, right, directly by a school or even boosters or anything like that. So how is the transfer portal or the whole psychology of it, as well as the NIL, how has it changed? Or what's some of the backstory, I guess, is a better question for how these changes came about to college athletics these days?
I think it started by wanting to let kids not have to sit out a year. That was the initial part of it. And then from there, the kids as student athletes, they said, universities are making all this money. How can we make part of the money? And so that's where it started. That's where it went. And from there, it's gone in a million different directions, some good and some are bad.
How do you see just even these two topics, transfer portal, NIL, even changing the landscape across college athletics, not just a single sport, but across the whole domain of college sports? How do you see it changing the landscape?
It's kind of interesting because it came in the same era of the COVID era, which there was so much things going on at that time period. And, whenever it comes to guys having, fifth or sixth year now, and so if they have another year, a grad year or whatever they want to say it, and some of the guys will consider, at that point, looking at another school and trying to, pursue another opportunity. You see it at every, especially the Division I level. I mean, it's nothing but it's about money now, and
Right.
It's the wild west of sports in the college level, and it was illegally done a long time ago. It wasn't like they weren't handing paper bags of money. You hear all the stories way back whenever this was illegal. I won't say any names or anything, but now it's just where the mindset goes.
Yeah.
You see it on TV. Those guys are looking to transfer this and that. So everybody thinks they have to have transfers to win, because a team like Baylor in basketball, they took a bunch of mid-major top players from mid-majors and then went and won a national championship. Worked really well for K-State last year, but it didn't work really well this year. So I think they're going to hit and miss on some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation. Just for you all, even on this level, we don't have a portal, right? So our male and female student athletes can't just throw their name in the portal. But talk to us just like, how has the psychology of it even trickled down to this level where if they see, students at a D1 level that leave just for whatever reason, money or something else. How has that trickled down to even our level? Maybe not at OKWU, but just the NAIA in general.
I think it becomes kind of almost cool. Hey, I'm in the portal. I'm looking to do something else, and sometimes when adversity hits, sometimes it's the easy way out too. And I think a lot of guys, they need adversity to fight through, and they become better players, better men, whatever, women. But it's also an easy out sometimes, and but it's almost become a social thing where, hey, I'm in the portal, and it's kind of like recruiting. When you get an offer, everybody wants to advertise, I got an offer from whatever. It's it becomes a social media thing for them.
Yeah. So it's almost turned into a social spectacle in some ways.
Exactly.
So how do you see that? Like, let's talk about recruiting for just a moment here. Like, how do you see that affecting how you two recruit? Because you and your coaching staffs are on the tip of the spear, really, the front lines of recruiting. How do you see it specifically affecting even your programs as you're, again, we don't have a transfer portal, but how does that even change the conversations that you're having with potential students or student athletes that you're looking at, even at the high school level? Like, how does that change that conversation for you?
I'm pretty excited about it because everybody's going after these transfer portal kids.
Yeah.
And so we've recruited, I think we may have one transfer in our whole program.
Yeah.
So we bring high school kids in. I mean, I've had 5 national players of the year, all the 4-year guys. The guys graduating are 5-year guys right now, and they're pursuing their masters. They just use the COVID and the extra year to have that to advantage. So we're a program, a lot of NAIA programs are like us, the private schools that are sitting there, kids that want to come to a private Christian university. And they get here, they love what we're doing.
Yeah.
They love the mission trips we go on. And, we got 2 All-Americans right now that will be seniors, and I'm excited about having them back. I've got guys that were successful young in their career, but they want to be here. They want to stay. So honestly, it's really helped us in some ways because there's more players available. There's more good freshmen available because they're passing on them looking for transfers, the quick fix.
It's a good perspective.
It seems like, on the D1 level that a lot more recruiting has gone into the transfer portal now than it is recruiting kids out of high school. And
Right.
I mean, the days of developing players over time are numbered, if
We
not
scrimmaged
gone.
a junior college that took no freshmen. They took all transfers. So it's junior college taking.
Wow.
So, like I said, a lot of good freshmen are available. There's less scholarships available because of the transfers.
Right.
And like I said, through COVID, there was less scholarships available because guys coming back for another year. And it just opened up some doors for us to find some really good young players and develop that. And it's a great thing, in my opinion,
Yeah, that's awesome.
for us.
So, I mean, you think of sports like basketball and football, being kind of the common conversations, but Coach Kelley, you're baseball. So how do you see this impacting the sport that you are, you're leading here?
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And, I got an email probably 2 days ago that this summer there's going to be workouts for transfer portal people.
Interesting.
And so there's going to be a lot of kids there. And so it does create opportunities for all of us. But it's kind of like Coach Bostwick said before we started talking on air is, kids sometimes come in and say, if I do well here, where can I go from here? And we want you to stay right here.
Yeah.
And we want you to walk across our stage and graduate with our degree. So it's a challenge when you deal with it every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. How has this affected, maybe not on our level, but the whole experience of what it means to be a student athlete, right? So I remember, this may surprise. I was a student. I played golf in college. I don't know if that counts me as a student athlete or not, but I did.
It does.
She's already ranked football and basketball and put baseball.
I wasn't ranking. I wasn't ranking. It's just 'tis the season, man.
I don't know if I call myself a student athlete, but I played college golf for 4 years. And I remember there were times that it was hard, right? You get tired of traveling. Obviously, coach with baseball. I mean, you all are on the road quite a bit. And again, Coach Bostwick, you mentioned this. If there's an easy exit, right? Why not take it? But I learned so much by sticking with it and finishing in my degree and playing for 4 years. So how has this whole psychology of it changed even the experience of what it means to be a student athlete?
I mean, I go back to once again, I think parents, when they're on the recruiting visits, they're choosing Oklahoma Wesleyan, and the athletes choosing Oklahoma Wesleyan for a reason. It's because what we stand for and who we play for. And that's been the staying reason for us, for our players that have been successful. I mean, we've won 30 games a year for the last 7 years. So the fact that we get our players and we return them. There's other schools like us that have a lot of success, and their guys stay as well. And it actually is beneficial because we have guys in our program for multiple years, and when they're in our, the whole system. I think OU last year, their average age was older than the Thunder's starting lineup.
That's unbelievable.
Because of the COVID, but the older players, they don't think you can win playing younger players and even reserve roles and stuff right now. There for a while, it was like the five, fab freshmen and one and done was winning everything. Well, those are not winning as much because the older teams are doing better and the mid majors are beating some of those teams. So. I think the Purdue's and stuff, those guys have a lot of guys that are back. Yeah. And the reason those teams have had success lately is because they've kept their guys in their program. So I think there's some fool's gold out there with that.
Yeah. Well, and you guys have both done such a great job with this, and Tori and I have talked about this, but culture matters, right? So you can chase money, you can chase some of the things, but if you build a program, which you both have done a phenomenal job, you build a culture, right? People want to stay because of the culture, and they stick for the long term, which is, I think, just speaks to what you both have done, even in your own respective programs.
So how do you build that culture? I mean, because it very well could be that there's people young in their coaching professions out there that are almost overwhelmed by this. And maybe they're not even at the collegiate level. Maybe they're at the travel sport level, and they got kids that are on different teams, different AAU teams every year because they're just trying to use it almost as free agency as well. What would you speak into a young coach, knowing that you two have worked over time to build culture and to establish just even your own style of leadership through coaching? Speak some life into these young coaches that are in the trenches of dealing with this, even at their own level.
She called us old.
I did not, man. I promise.
I think it is never compromising.
Yeah.
No matter what is out there. If you don't compromise on who you are, what you stand for, what you're trying to teach, I think culture takes care of itself. I can watch his team. That's why they're good. I can watch our soccer team. I can go down all of our programs, and I'm not trying to single out anybody, but all of our programs, if you believe in what you're doing and you can pass that on, I think that's how you do it.
How about you, Coach Bostwick?
I would say I think you come into this thing and on their tour, like I have kids touring today, recruits in today, and you just put it, this is what we're all about.
Right.
I mean, they know coming in, hey, there's a chance that because we have all but 2 of our starters back and 8 of our top 10 returning, you're going to come in and possibly be behind really good players. If you want to be a top 5 type program, then you're going to come in and develop. And like I said before, the predominant number of it's not like I won't take a transfer, but if I have a guy with the option of having him 4 years over a guy with 2,
develop over time.
I would take him and develop him. By the time he's at Christmas, he's playing like a sophomore. His second year, he's playing like he's a junior, and I got him 3 more years.
Yeah.
I think I've only had 1 kid transfer, and I think he regretted it. I'm talking about guys that were in the rotation or my top guys. And so, why go somewhere else when you're winning already and having success and you're going on mission trips, you're representing Christ. They chose that for a reason. And most of the time they've had, success enjoying returning, watching themselves get better, and that sort of. So if you're a young coach and you're trying to encourage a kid, I treat my players like they're my sons. Yeah. My dad, obviously, coach, same kind of deal. My dad was like, son, you don't quit anything.
Right.
Like, he didn't give me options of saying, hey, you need to try somewhere else. You're not very good there. He says, you can come work with me construction or you can figure that out. And I was in junior college sitting on the bench that first year. Only option I had, and it was time to get in the weight room, get in the gym, and flip that. And I was blessed to do that and then go to NAIA school and have a really good career. And, too many kids these days think it's an easy route. I'm not playing immediately, and so they say, we got to go somewhere else. Yeah. And I think that's not a good thing to have that mindset. I think, there's sometimes maybe a transfer is a positive, but I think a lot of these young men are doing that, and it's not healthy. And so, not that I'm against the transfer portal, I just think it's a fad. And I think the money and the NAIL stuff is at the highest level, so it's not affecting the small D1s, the D2s, the NAIAs. It's affecting the highest level guys. So those guys we're looking at, we're talking to and stuff are really not even in that mix of NAIL stuff. So
Yeah.
Our guys, I think they should want to go somewhere they're going to get a degree, if they can help get it paid for, and win basketball games,
Right.
and give God glory. So
Yeah. No, that's great.
Yeah, I think that's great. So, this is more of a kind of a macro conversation on the bigger level, but the NCAA has kind of prided itself on being pro-student athlete, right? So kind of the idea of making sure that we're talking about the student first before the athlete. But for you all, as you've kind of watched this whole thing unfold, how has something like the NIL changed what it means to be a student athlete as far as the importance of academics and getting a degree and things like that? And I recognize that maybe not as much on this level, but that's kind of part of the national conversation that you're both aware of how has it changed the importance of things like getting a degree and going to class and things like that, which is typically a part of college, ironically.
Right.
That's what you hope.
Yeah.
I heard a coach, I don't know what coach, what sport, just within the week said, you got kids going from school A to school B to school C and some even to school D. Mm-hmm. And they say, what school do you say you went to when you're older? What school did you say you graduated? Who's your coach? Who are your teammates? Mm-hmm. And the beauty of a program is those guys in 20, 30 years. It's your coach, the player-coach relationship 28 years later. That's what makes it special.
For sure.
And, and in our situation, Oklahoma Wesleyan degree means a lot to a lot of people. And I just thought it was interesting when I heard him say that.
Yeah.
Well, divorce rate's up.
Yeah.
And it's just culture. Everybody thinks it's not.
Yeah.
Where's commitment?
The grass is greener.
Why everybody's so quick to jump, and why you going to teach your kids that that's all right. But when they see their parents do it and they see the culture do it, and they think, my heroes, wherever that is now transferred over and he's having a little success. They don't put all these guys that aren't having success in the transfer portal. Where's all of that information? It's just they're highlighting the ones that are. And so Coach has a young man who played for him in the major leagues, and Sadio Rojas, he's still playing overseas and played the Olympics and had a lot of success and won a D-League championship. And if you're good enough and you're at the whatever level, they're going to find you.
Yeah.
And so I've had a ton of players play overseas and that sort of thing, and get to pursue their post college days. But that's a select few. How many NBA players? It's a joke.
Yeah.
Guys are going to make the MLB and stuff. There's going to be that one every once in a while.
For sure.
But to tell every kid to have that kind of thought process, if I'm not getting my playing time right now in my numbers, the difference a lot of times we'll scrimmage the really talented junior college early in the season, go play in a jamboree or something. And the difference is a lot of times those kids are trying to get their own because they want to transfer.
Right.
Where our guys are just wanting to win as a group and enjoy. Steve Briggs says the best times of his life was not his professional career, it was playing here, where he just had guys that played all for each other, and unity was big, and traveling and just enjoying each other was so powerful. And all those guys say the same thing, like that's the best time of your life. Go back and be a part of something special.
Yeah. Well, and that's something special here at OKWU, I think, is one of our distinctives, that we are Christ-centered in all that we do. So how you coach is Christ first and Christ at the center. Talk to us a little bit about some of the challenges in that, because the reality of it is, and we talk about this often here, not every person comes to Oklahoma Wesleyan for that same mission and that same purpose. And so your role being coach, obviously you're looking for mission-minded students, right? But how do you use coaching as a form of discipleship for people that might be coming for purposes? Maybe it's just to play the sport that you've recruited them for, but how do you use your leadership position, such as coaching in this instance, to disciple these young adults in their time with you, whether it's 4 years, 5 years, if they got the COVID year, maybe even a 6th, right? So
one more guy, one more year of the COVID. So,
but how do you use coaching as discipleship?
When I first went into coaching, my college coach said two things. He said, don't let it dominate your life. He said, don't forget your family and other things. And then the second thing he said is, sometimes the only Bible they will ever see is you.
Oh, yeah, that's
good.
And
so that's always stuck with me. And so I think of that as a responsibility. I think of it as, I like it. I want that responsibility. And so that's how I go about it.
Yeah, no, that's good. How about you, Coach?
I think like today I'm going to have Last night I was at about 8:00 talking to recruits and their families, and I talked to them originally as a group, and then I individually after the workout. I have one opportunity possibly at these recruits if they don't come here to share the gospel and let them know, that Jesus is real and that we stand for something here, and we're going to do everything we can to help their son grow spiritually and become a potentially better husband and father and all that kind of stuff down the road. And we're not taking our rings and banners and all that stuff to heaven. We're taking souls, and been blessed to coach a long time, both of us, and NAIA guys that have been around forever. And I got into the business because of heroes that were coaches that I went to camps in NAIA. Coach Dan Hayes, Bob Hoffman, all these guys, Steve Jenkins at Evangelo, those kind of guys. And I got to coach a little bit against some of those guys, while they were still in the business. But if we're not changing lives and growing people up, parents are handing them to us, trusting us to help continually develop them, and not just use them to win ball games. Right. And then I leave. We both returned. We were here, and then we both returned because of what we stand for and how special a place this is. So it's why we do what we do. Right. I mean, the wins are fun, but that's a byproduct of just touching lives.
For sure.
Yeah. It's interesting because it seems like on the larger level, we talked about the kind of elite schools that young men and young women go there because of themselves, because of the opportunity to make money, and there's problems there. But for here, it's actually created an opportunity, right? It's created an opportunity for us where maybe all of that hasn't trickled down here quite as much. And here you have an opportunity to talk to young men and young women about Christ, right? And discipleship and winning and, the things that develop a program, which is a whole different sort of conversation. So there has been a lot that has changed. And you all have been in the coaching business for a long time. We're talking about some of the changes. But I'm curious, what hasn't changed? In your 20, 30, whatever long you've been coaching, you're only 35, Coach Kelley.
He just called
Coach
you old.
Bostwick's 36. I
like Ben more than you.
Fair enough.
Qualify here. But what hasn't changed, right? So I played college golf here for 4 years. You guys both know Dan Wood, my college golf coach for a couple of years. He's now the executive director of the NCCAA. But he texted me the other day, right? We've had some family issues, just some health issues that we've been working through, and he called to just check, right? And I haven't played for him for a long time, but you don't get that, at another level. So that hasn't changed over time, right? So talk to us for both of you, amidst all this chaos and culture, what hasn't changed as you work with student athletes?
Relationships, you nailed it.
Yeah.
I had a phone call today from a guy asked me if I'd write a letter to his son who's turning 40. Now that did make me feel old because I coached him.
Hey, and I didn't do that one right there, man.
I've coached 5 of my players' kids.
Wow.
And so I always say if I get to the grandson, then it's probably time to go. But it's relationships haven't changed. And there's also, people always say players have changed. Players not necessarily have changed. Coaches have changed. Yeah. And because we give in, we compromise, we don't hold standards enough. So I think it's about relationship. But I've never had a player come back and say, Coach, I wish I wouldn't work so hard. Yeah. I've had them come back with regrets and say, I'm sorry I didn't work, but I've never had them come back and say, man, I wish I wouldn't work so hard. Yeah. So that's you nailed it.
Yeah.
God hasn't changed.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the one baseline that if the world's changing, God is trying to tell us we're supposed to change with it. But truth be known, God's still in the business, and so he, as you can see, all the athletes in the NCAA tournament, girls and guys right now, how many of them are giving God glory after success, and it's been so great to see all that. And it's been like that forever. God's going to use whatever world that the world thinks they're trying to dominate, and he's going to flip it on them. And so it's been really awesome. But, the public school system's hard. I got friends who get out of the coaching business because they can't share the gospel or, they're told to share things they're not in agreement with. And a lot of kids are going to private schools and homeschooled and stuff. So those sports realms have gotten better over the years, last few years. But the cool thing about Oklahoma Wesleyan is we don't, and we're not apologetic about anything when it comes to Christ. And so I'm not worried about getting fired for sharing the gospel with my guys. And so you talk about parents that are looking for that. We got a haven, and that's a huge recruiting tool.
For sure.
for us.
Absolutely.
And it's been the secret in our sauce. And I would say the same thing for a lot of the successful, if you interview Freed Hardman's coach with that thing, what he had to say after they won at Indiana Wesleyan and Grace. I mean, I could just go on and on and on at schools. We're getting a lot of great players because of that. They don't want to send them to public schools, larger schools that they're going to be taught things that they don't agree with.
Yeah. I think it's such a great leadership lesson, and Tori, you can piggyback on this, but it seems that it's so easy to kind of drink the Kool-Aid of, as culture becomes more complicated, we need to be more complicated and start to chase these things. And what I love about what you're saying is sometimes simple is most effective, right? Yep. We share the gospel. We stand for things here at Oklahoma Wesleyan. We take care of our student athletes and our students. We invest in them. We help them get a degree. Yep. And there's something that's just incredibly simple and yet transformative in just the simplicity of and the power of what we do here.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about college athletics in the past. We've talked about kind of the current chaos at levels that are maybe even different than our own here in AIA level. As you look at what's ahead, be it NCAA and all their chaos that they're dealing with, or even in AIA, what excites you about what lies ahead? What gives you hope for college sports as we get to continue to love on and work with college student athletes? Like, what gives you hope as you look ahead?
That's a good question. Everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a cheap answer, but everything is still. I get to go coach the sport I love.
Yeah.
With players I love, my assistants, school I love. I mean, so what gives me hope is we don't have to change.
Yeah.
That's a silly answer, but that's my answer.
Well, no, but that's good though. I mean, and we're talking about kind of this resolve and that we're going to stick to our core convictions. Yeah. Like that is good that we don't have to change and that we know that. Yeah. How about you, Coach Bostwick?
I would say, I think the fact that I get to come do this for a living, is not even, I mean, like I said, my dad was a bricklayer. I grew up having to do construction and all that kind of stuff. And my dream was to go be like, the small college coaches, the Dan Hayes and those kind of guys that I went to camps with and stuff. So in this day and age, a coach probably even more so than a pastor has more of an influence than anything in this world. There's so many kids that chase sports and use sports as an opportunity. Why we do sports? Because it teaches them hard work, teaches them commitment, teaches them all those things, how to deal with failure. Yeah. And God has those answers. If you're chasing fame, you're chasing money, you're probably going to not be happy with the results. And that's what the world keeps selling. Where we're trying to sell them on, get a degree. What do you want to do in life? How do you want to change lives? Yeah. Use basketball as an opportunity to worship God on a court, on a baseball field, or wherever it is, and celebrate that with friends and build relationships. Because, let's travel on bus rides, things like that. That's the things you'll be talking about, with your buddies, along down the road. Yeah, we can try and hang banners. Yeah. We want to give God glory and do it at the highest level of competition, but that'll never change. Yeah. I mean, if you chase what are you chasing? Who are you seeking? And when you teach kids that, I always say it like this, how long are you going to live? 120 is max, physical body. How long is your spirit man going to live? Forever. Yeah. So what are you doing daily? Are you feeding him? Mm-hmm. We have chapel. You're going to have a chance to be fed. Mm-hmm. So many different ways, on campus. When you get that man bigger than that man right there, miracles happen. Mm-hmm. And they have. So, it's been pretty neat to. Coach Kelley's one of my favorite people. I actually hired him back in the day, but Jamie, our soccer coach, was my assistant coach. And just to see so many of these guys and the way they do things and the success they have, it's just it's favor from God. I mean, there's no other explanation.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, just one more question before we wrap up for the day, but I'm just curious for you all, when you think about your years in coaching, is there a player that comes to your mind that you saw develop just significantly here, but maybe as a person, but also as a student athlete? I mean, are there a couple stories that you have from players that, man, that player that I had just grew by leaps and bounds?
There's a lot.
Yeah. Lots of faces.
And I think that's a good answer because there's a lot. But I like when you see your team grow. You see them grow in their maturity for the Lord, maturity for the sport, staying humble. All that stuff, but it's fun watching them grow as a team. That's probably my favorite. Yeah. But I've sat behind my closed door with many athletes and cried together and all that. I cry on the drop of a hat, and I'm okay with that.
I love it. I love it.
I'm going to actually share one that's kind of unique. When we were here, the first time I was in Oklahoma Wesleyan, we had just won, 39 consecutive games, set an NAIA record and stuff. And we, had been through a whole year without a loss. It was insane. Won a national championship. It was incredible. It was a miracle. But one of my six men just broke his foot. I just had walked upstairs after the game, won a 39 consecutive, beating Bellevue, and told my dad, and he's like, hey, I'm peeing blood, son. And so I went to the emergency room, found out he had cancer. And then a young man made a mistake. His name is Cornelius Donnell. And I was just broken, because I really liked this young man. And he was taking a little bit of a risk on him and stuff, but he made a mistake. And so we had to send him home. Just tore me up. But, there was a stretch where I was like, man, doggone Corn. We went back to the Final Four. We could have won it again, if you wouldn't have made that mistake. And it was 10 years later, and I came back to Oklahoma West, and I got a Facebook request from Corn. And I was like, what? I didn't know what happened. I thought one got away, And, he's got 3 beautiful kids. He's involved in ministry, and he's like, Coach, what happened there? I know I made a mistake, but it changed my life.
Wow.
That was a national championship.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a soul who's going to heaven, and his kids and his grandkids and everything that'll be affected because, his time here. So it's powerful.
Yeah.
Oh. Man, the work that you both do and the way that you develop and disciple student athletes, just want to say thank you for the work that you're doing day in and day out, your staff. The cherry on top is the fact that our programs are really good here, really
win.
solid. Yeah, we like winning here at OKWU. So thanks for the work that you do, and thanks for the conversation today. It's been very helpful.
The Division I level, I mean, it's nothing